Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who joins us from around the world. We're so glad you're here. This is Andrew and Renee. Welcome to the Stack series.
It is so good to be back.
Today, we are exploring the science of mindfulness and meditation. And I have to start by saying right off the bat that reading this research made me feel, well, a little bit called out.
Oh, called out how?
Maybe even a little scammed, if I'm being honest.
Scammed is a strong word. What happened?
Well, like millions of other people, I have one of those apps on my phone, the little icon, the soothing colors. It sends me a push notification at 8 a.m. saying, time for your daily moment.
The daily moment. I know it well.
And I do it. I put in my headphones while the coffee is brewing, and I listen to a calm voice telling me to breathe in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8.
Right.
And for about 5, maybe 10 minutes, I get this little bing sound, and the screen pops up with a little digital badge.
Ah, the badge. The reward.
Exactly. The reward. And the promise, whether they say it outright or not, is that this little 5-minute slice of my day is going to cure my anxiety, it's going to fix my focus, maybe even make me a better person.
The McMindfulness model, as it's been called.
It's fast, it's easy, it's convenient. But then I read this stack of papers we have in front of us, and I'm getting the very distinct impression I've been sold a bill of goods.
Sold might be a bit harsh, but I will say there is a massive gap between that popular idea, the 5 minutes to bliss you're describing, and the rigorous neurobiological reality.
It feels like a canyon, not a gap.
It can feel that way. We have a whole set of research here, mostly from late 2024 and all through 2025, that really challenges that 5-minute rule.
It doesn't just challenge it. It feels like it dismantles it piece by piece.
It does. We're looking at hard data now on dosage. I mean, how much do you actually need to do to change your brain?
Right. Not just to feel good for a second, but to actually change the wiring.
Exactly. We're talking about white matter integrity, about fundamental shifts in brain states, and even some really surprising adverse effects that you never hear about in the app description.
No, you definitely do not.
So for everyone listening, if you've ever sat there wondering if your meditation practice is actually doing anything,
or if you're just, napping with good posture,
then this is the conversation for you.
So where do we start? This seems like a huge topic to unpack.
It is. So let's break it down into 4 specific movements, just to keep us on track.
Okay.
First, we have to lay the foundations. We need to get really precise about what we even mean when we say mindfulness, and we need to look at the brain's basic architecture, specifically the difference between gray matter and white matter.
Which, as I've learned, is absolutely crucial to this whole discussion.
It's everything. Second, we move into the active debate. This is where the science is really... Well, it's messy and it's exciting. We're going to get into that dose-response controversy.
How much is enough?
Exactly. Does frequency matter more than how long you sit? And are there actual side effects to just watching your thoughts?
Spoiler alert. Yes. And they are weird.
They are very weird.
Yeah.
Third, we'll look at the frontiers. This is the brand new stuff. New imaging studies from 2025 that are looking at how meditation can preserve the brain's wiring as we age and how it literally changes the state your brain lives in.
Okay.
And finally, we'll talk about the implications. What does all this new science mean for that billion-dollar app industry? What does it mean for aging, for public health, and for your daily routine?
All right, that's a fantastic roadmap. Let's start at the beginning. Foundations.
Let's do it.
I want to start with the word itself. Mindfulness. I think we all use it, but I'm not sure we all mean the same thing. For some people, it's just paying attention. For others, it's like a religious practice.
You're right. It's become a suitcase word. You can just pack anything you want into it.
A suitcase word. I like that.
And that lack of precision has been a huge problem for the science. If you can't define what you're measuring, how can you measure it?
So let's try to define it. The first big question that came up for me was, is mindfulness a thing you do, like sitting on a cushion, or is it a way you are?
That is the perfect place to start. That distinction is the first and most important hurdle. And we have to give credit to the critique by Van Dam back in 2018, which really called the field to account and set the stage for the more rigorous work we're seeing now.
What did that critique say?
It said that researchers were constantly mixing up 2 completely different things. First, There is mindfulness as a practice.
The verb, the doing.
Precisely. That's the formal exercise. You sit down, you follow your breath, you do a body scan meditation. It's a specific cognitive task you are engaging in for a set period of time.
Got it. So that's the workout.
That's the workout. Then there's mindfulness as a trait. This is a dispositional quality. It's not about what you do for 10 minutes. It's about how you are, how you move through the world the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of the day.
So, like, being less reactive,
Yeah.
more aware in general.
Exactly. Are you non-judgmental? Do you notice your impulses before you act on them? It's a characteristic of your personality.
Okay, so can you have the trait without doing the practice? Like, are some people just born more mindful?
It seems so, yes. Some people just naturally have that disposition. But here's where it gets really interesting and where the research got so confused. You can absolutely do the practice, but not have the trait.
What do you mean?
You can sit on your cushion for 20 minutes, follow your breath perfectly, and the moment you stand up, you get in your car and scream at the person who cut you off in traffic.
Yes. I feel deeply seen by that example.
We all do. In that moment, you did the practice, but you are not exhibiting the trait.
Right.
And the problem was that early studies would say, give people a questionnaire to measure their trait mindfulness, and then they'd assume that any high scores were because of the practice, without actually connecting the two.
It's like assuming that because someone owns a gym membership, they must be fit. But they could just be going there to sit in the sauna and eat a protein bar.
Precisely. So today, what we're really focusing on is the biological impact of the practice. What actually happens to the hardware of your brain when you do the work?
Okay, the hardware. This brings us to the brain anatomy part.
Yeah.
I feel like for the last decade, all we've heard about is gray matter.
The classic headline.
Meditation increases gray matter density, monks have thicker brains, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But all this new research, especially this big meta-analysis from Collier Patel in 2025, seems completely obsessed with white matter.
It is. It's the new frontier.
So help us visualize this. Give us the simple breakdown. What is the actual physical difference between gray and white matter? And why should I care which one is changing?
Okay, let's use an analogy. Think of your brain as a massive, sprawling city.
Okay, a city.
The gray matter, that's all the buildings. It's the processing centers. These are the factories, the libraries, the power plants, the houses. It's where the actual work gets done. It's where the bodies of the neuron cells live.
So gray matter is the destination. It's the computer chip, the CPU.
Perfect. It's where the computation happens. But what good is a city full of amazing buildings if there are no roads connecting them?
Right. It's useless. You can't get anything from the factory to the store.
Exactly. White matter is the infrastructure. It's the highway system. It's all the cables, the fiber optic lines that connect all those different buildings. It's what allows information to travel quickly and efficiently from one processing center to another.
So gray matter is the light bulb, white matter is the wiring.
And the quality of that wiring determines the speed and efficiency of the entire system. A thought is only as fast as the connection it travels on.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you see the quality of the wiring? I mean, you can't just open up someone's head and check the cables.
No, you can't. And this is where the technology gets really cool. We use...
I'm seeing that acronym all over these papers.
So DTI doesn't look at the structures themselves. It looks at the movement of water molecules inside the brain.
Water molecules. How does that tell you anything?
Okay, imagine a brand new garden hose. It's perfect, thick rubber, no holes, no cracks.
Right.
If you turn on the tap, where does the water go?
It shoots straight out the end in a single strong stream.
Exactly. It flows in one specific direction. It's constrained by the structure of the hose. In brain imaging, we call that high fractional anisotropy, or FA.
High FA, so that's good. That means the hose is working.
That's very good. It means the structure is sound, and it's keeping the flow of information tight and directional. Now, imagine an old, frayed garden hose. It's been left out in the sun for years. The rubber is brittle. It's got tiny cracks all over it. You turn on the tap. What happens now?
It leaks. It's spraying water out the sides. The pressure at the end is weak. It's a mess.
Exactly. That's low fractional anisotropy. DTI allows us to see that spray inside the brain's wiring. When we say someone's white matter integrity is declining, we literally mean that the water molecules are diffusing sideways. They're leaking out.
So the signal is leaking out. That is a genuinely terrifying image. My brain is a leaky hose.
As we get older, yes, that's what happens to all of us. And this is what the Collier Patel analysis mapped out so clearly. They found this very predictable and a little depressing. curve.
I'm ready for the bad news.
Your white matter integrity, the quality of your cables, peaks in your early adulthood. Then it sort of plateaus between the ages of about 20 and 35. That's your prime. That's when your brain is a brand new high-pressure hose.
I miss being a high-pressure hose. I really do.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
But then, and this is the key number, from about age 36 to 50, and then onwards, that integrity starts a significant, measurable decline.
So it starts at 36.
The fraying begins. The cables start to degrade. The water starts to spray sideways. And they've even linked the speed of this decline to specific genetic factors like the APOE and HTT genes.
Okay, so let me just process this. Around my late 30s, which is uncomfortably close for a lot of us, the wiring in my brain naturally starts to fall apart.
That's the baseline human experience, yes.
So this sets up the entire premise of our conversation today. The huge question is, can meditation stop the fraying?
Can it patch the leaky hose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if the cables break down, that's where you get cognitive decline.
Right.
Slower thinking, memory problems, all the stuff we associate with getting older.
That is the big frontier question we're building towards. We know from other research, like the Calderon Review from 2024, that the brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity is a real thing. The brain can change.
Right, we know that.
But the question isn't, can the brain change anymore? The question is, does this specific practice actually strengthen these specific cables? Or is that just a nice headline? And if it does, how much? How much meditation do you need to do to fight back against your own genes and the relentless march of time?
Which brings us perfectly, and a little terrifyingly, into part 2. The active debate.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we have to talk about the numbers. And I'm not going to lie, this is the part of the research that made me feel angry. Because the data on dose response is, well, it's aggressive.
It's confronting. There's no doubt about it.
So the central conflict here is, how much do I actually have to meditate to see a real biological change? Not just, oh, I feel a bit calmer for 10 minutes, but a real clinically meaningful improvement.
To answer that, we have to look at this landmark study from Bowles and Van Dam that came out in 2025. It's so important because it was a prospective longitudinal study.
Okay, break that down. What does that mean and why is it better?
It means they didn't just call up a bunch of people and ask, hey, how much have you meditated in your life? Which is really unreliable.
Right, people misremember or exaggerate.
Totally. Instead, they enrolled over 1,000 participants and tracked them as they were practicing over many months. They measured what they were actually doing in real time, and then they followed up years later to see the long-term effects. It's the gold standard.
And what were they looking for?
They were testing 2 main variables. First, frequency. That's how many days per week you practice.
Yeah.
And second, duration. That's how long you sit for each time you practice.
So is it better to do 10 minutes every day or a big 70-minute session once a week on Sunday?
And the first finding was actually a bit of a surprise, and it sounds like good news at first.
Okay.
Frequency trumps duration.
Okay, explain that.
Yeah.
Why does my brain care more about how often I do it than for how long?
Think about learning any other skill, like learning a language or an instrument.
Okay, guitar.
Perfect. If you practice guitar for 5 hours straight on a Sunday, but then you don't touch it again until the next Sunday, what happens?
My fingers are killing me on Sunday, and by Wednesday, I've already gotten the new chord progression.
Exactly. Your brain learns through repetition. It works on a principle we call Hebbian learning. Neurons that fire together wire together.
Right.
But for that wiring to become permanent, for it to become a new default pathway, you have to keep reminding the brain that this new connection is important. You have to reactivate it regularly.
So a little bit every day reinforces the lesson.
It tells the brain, this isn't a fluke. This is the new normal. Build a permanent road here. If you only do it once a week, even for a long time, the brain just treats it as a weird one-off event, not a new habit to encode.
Okay, that makes sense. That actually sounds encouraging, to just show up every day, habit argument. I can do that. But then we get to the numbers on the total time.
Yes, this is the tough pill to swallow. After establishing that daily practice was key, they looked for the threshold. The magic number, if you will, the minimum dose required to see statistically significant improvements in well-being and mental distress.
I'm going to let you say the number because I don't want to be the one to ruin everyone's morning routine.
All right. To see meaningful improvements in general, well-being, that's things like life satisfaction, positive emotions, the data suggests you need to practice for 35 to 65 minutes daily.
Daily. 35 to 65 minutes. That's a lot more than my app tells me.
And it gets steeper. For specific mental health outcomes, like actually reducing symptoms of psychological distress, anxiety, depression, the required dose jumps.
How much?
The threshold there was 50 to 80 minutes daily.
Okay, hold on. Just stop right there. 50 to 80. So basically an hour or maybe even an hour and 20 minutes a day.
That's what this large-scale study found, yes.
So you're telling me that unless I can find an extra hour in my day, which, let's be real, if you have a job or kids or both, is basically impossible, I'm just spinning my wheels.
I can hear the frustration in your voice.
It's incredibly demotivating. Is the data really that black and white? Is there zero benefit to the 10 minutes I squeezed in this morning while my toast was burning?
No, it's not that there is no benefit. Let me be really clear about that. The study absolutely indicates that some is better than nothing.
Okay.
Any pause you take, any moment of conscious breathing, is almost certainly better for your nervous system than doom scrolling on your phone. But, and this is the crucial distinction, we are talking about clinically meaningful, long-term structural change. The kind of change that actually rewires your white matter or significantly lowers your baseline anxiety levels over time.
So my 10 minutes is like taking one flight of stairs instead of the elevator.
That is a perfect analogy.
It's good for me. It's better than standing still, but it's not going to train me for a marathon.
Exactly. And the McMindfulness marketing has sold us all on the idea that taking that one flight of stairs a day will somehow give us the results of a marathon runner. And biologically, that just doesn't add up. You can't hack biology. You can't, trick your brain into building new infrastructure without putting in the time.
It's frustrating, but it makes a certain kind of cold, hard sense.
It does. And it helps explain why so much of the previous research was so, messy. Which brings us to the methodology problems.
Right, because I am definitely sitting here thinking, well, I've read headlines for years saying 10 minutes on an app works.
And you have. And a big reason for that is something we can call the digital placebo.
I love that term. What is it?
Well, Bowles' team published a protocol in 2025 for a new randomized controlled trial designed specifically to test this. They pointed out a huge flaw in almost all the previous app-based studies.
The control groups.
The control groups were terrible. Usually they'd use what's called a waitlist control.
Right, so Group A gets the meditation app, and Group B is told, sorry, you're on the waiting list. Just do nothing for 8 weeks and we'll check back in.
Exactly. And then, surprise, surprise, Group A reports feeling better than Group B.
Well, of course they do. They were actively doing something to try and improve themselves. Just the act of taking that step probably makes you feel more in control and hopeful.
That's the placebo effect. But the digital placebo is even more subtle. Let's say I give you a mindfulness app, and I tell you to use it for 10 minutes, and afterward you feel calmer.
Okay.
Was it the mindfulness that made you calm? Or was it the fact that you stopped working, you put down your phone, you start checking your email, you looked at a soothing blue screen, and you listened to a calm voice for 10 minutes?
So the break itself is the medicine, not the specific instructions.
It could be. And until you test for that, you can't know for sure. So the new gold standard for these studies is to use what's called a minimal active control. Some people call it sham meditation.
How on earth do you fake meditation?
Pretty clever. You have the control group use an app that looks and feels exactly like the real meditation app. Same design, same soothing voice, same everything.
Yep.
But instead of giving them instructions on breath awareness or non-judgment, the voice just reads them boring, unrelated text.
Like what?
Like a Wikipedia article about how concrete is made. Or it asks them to mentally rotate abstract shapes. Or just listen to a dry history lecture.
That sounds excruciatingly boring.
It's supposed to be. The point is to make sure it mimics the experience, sitting quietly, listening to something, but without the active ingredient of mindfulness, which is that metacognitive awareness of your own thoughts.
So if the mindfulness group doesn't feel significantly better than the concrete listening group?
Then the magic isn't in the mindfulness. It's just in taking a break and listening to something boring.
And that's what's weeding out the weak studies and pointing toward this higher dosage being the real deal.
It's one of the key factors, yes. It's about isolating the true variable.
But there's another side to this debate that we have to get into. And this is the part that, frankly, nobody ever talks about in yoga class. Adverse effects.
The assumption is that it's always good for you. It's all natural, so it must be harmless.
Right. It's like kale. It can't hurt you.
But any tool that is powerful enough to change your brain is powerful enough to have unintended consequences. If a tool can sharpen your mind, it can also cut you.
And that brings us to the memory paradox. This is from a review out of Bowdoin College and some other related work. And this part actually spooked me a little bit.
It's deeply fascinating and completely counterintuitive. They used a classic psychological test to probe memory called the DRM paradigm.
Okay, walk us through it. Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to read you a list of words. I just want you to listen carefully and try to remember them.
Okay, I'm ready. My memory is now on the line.
Here we go. The words are bed, rest, awake, tired, dream, wake, snooze, blanket, doze, slumber, snore, peace, yawn, drowsy.
Okay.
Got it.
Now, tell me, was the word sleep on that list?
I mean, my brain is screaming, yes, it feels like it was definitely there.
Yeah.
But this feels like a trap, so I'm going to say no.
You are correct. It was not on the list.
Okay, I passed the test.
Sleep is what we call the lower word. It's semantically related to every single word I read to you, so your brain automatically generates it to tie the list together. But it was never actually spoken.
Right. So what does this have to do with meditators?
Here's the paradox. When they run this test on experienced meditators, they are more likely to fall for the trick.
Wait, what?
Yes. Meditators are significantly more susceptible to this false memory effect. They are much more likely than non-meditators to confidently say, yes, sleep was on the list. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
I would think mindfulness would make you more aware, more tuned into reality. Shouldn't you have, like, laser focus and be better at noticing the fact?
You would think so, but you have to consider the actual mechanism you're training in mindfulness. What is the core instruction?
To observe your thoughts without judgment.
Exactly. Non-judgmental acceptance. You are training yourself to accept every thought, every sensation that arises in your consciousness as valid, without scrutinizing it, without analyzing it, without rejecting it. You are opening the aperture of your awareness as wide as it can go.
Oh, I see where this is going.
So when your brain, through its normal associative process, suggests the word sleep,
The non-judgmental mind just says, yep, come on in, you belong here, instead of saying, hold on, let me fact check that against my actual sensory input.
you've got it perfectly. It actually reduces the filter for what's called reality monitoring. You become so practiced at accepting your internal experience that you might accept a lure as truth. It increases your sensitivity to everything, but it can reduce the critical filter that rejects incorrect information.
So there's a trade-off. You get less anxiety and less self-criticism, but in exchange, you might become a little more gullible to your own brain's suggestions.
In certain specific contexts, like this memory task, that seems to be the case. It's the cost of being radically open. If you open all the windows in your house to let the breeze in, you're inevitably going to let some bugs in, too.
That is wild. And what about just regular memory, like remembering where I put my keys?
On that front, the review found that, again, dosage mattered. 4 weeks of practice wasn't enough to show any improvement in day-to-day episodic memory.
So a month isn't enough.
No. They found that 8 weeks seemed to be the minimum threshold before you start seeing those kinds of benefits.
This all really comes back to that big critique from Van Damme that you mentioned earlier, doesn't it? The Mind the Hype paper.
It does, perfectly. His whole point was that the field was plagued by poor definitions, a lack of active control groups, and a tendency to overinterpret very weak signals.
So we need to be incredibly skeptical of any headline that just says, meditation cures X.
Exactly. You should immediately ask, what type is meditation and what was the dosage? Because if a headline says, mindfulness improves memory, you might think, great, my 5 minutes is working.
But the study behind it might have been an hour a day for 3 months, and it might have come with this weird side effect of increasing false memories that they don't mention in the headline.
Science is always more nuanced and usually more annoying than the headline.
That is the truth. Okay, so we have basically shattered the 5-minute myth. We've introduced this really high time commitment, and we've worried everyone about their memories.
It sounds a little bleak when you put it like that.
So let's move to the frontiers. Let's look at the new research that might explain why it's worth doing this, despite the high cost. Because there has to be a powerful upside if people have been doing this for thousands of years.
There is. And to
Yeah.
see it, we have to go back to the brain. We talked about structure, the white matter cables. Now let's talk about function, or what we call brain states. This is based on a really elegant study by Panizas and his team from 2025.
This one, I have to say, really resonated with me on a personal level.
This study looked at very long-term meditators, people who have been hitting those high-dosage numbers for years, even decades, and they found something profound. a fundamental shift in how their brains choose to spend their time.
What do you mean how a brain spends time?
Well, think of your brain as having different default neighborhoods that it likes to hang out in when it's not busy with a specific task.
Okay.
For most of us non-meditators, our brain spends a huge amount of its free time in one particular neighborhood, the default mode network, or DMN.
The DM. We hear this term all the time now. But what does it actually feel like to be in the DMN?
It feels like you. The default mode network is essentially the narrator of your life story. It's that voice in your head that never, ever shuts up.
The inner monologue.
Exactly. It's most active when you're not focused on an external task. It's responsible for mind wandering, for daydreaming, and crucially, for rumination. It's your brain's time travel machine.
Time travel. I like that.
The DMN is what yanks you back into the argument you had with your boss yesterday and makes you replay it over and over. It's what pushes you into the future to worry about that presentation you have to give next week. It's the endless internal narrative of, why did I say that? What if I fail? I should have done this differently. Oh, and I need to buy milk.
It's the 3 a.m. worry loop, the thing that keeps you awake at night.
That is the DMN in overdrive. Now, here's what Pomitz and his team discovered. Long-term meditation literally shifts your brain's residential address.
What do you mean?
Meditators spend significantly less neurological time living in the DMN, their brain's default change, and instead it spends significantly more time in sensory and attention brain states.
So, their brains are literally living more in the here and now.
On a neurological level, yes. Their brains have been rewired to prioritize processing incoming sensory input. The feeling of the chair they're sitting on, the sound of the birds outside, the temperature of the air on their skin, over processing the internal narratives.
And not just thinking about being present. Their brain is actually doing it by default.
They have, in a very real sense, fired the narrator, or at least told the narrator to take a very long coffee break.
That sounds incredibly peaceful.
It is, and it explains why the required dosage is so high. You are trying to retrain the fundamental default setting of a system that has been running the same program your entire life. You're trying to move your brain's home base from the DMN to the sensory network. That takes massive, massive repetition.
You're fighting against your own evolutionary programming in a way. The DMN is there to help us plan and predict threats, right?
It absolutely is. It's a survival mechanism. But in the modern world, it often goes into overdrive, creating threats where there are none. Taming it takes work.
And this all connects back to the white matter, right?
Yeah.
To the leaky hose we talked about at the beginning.
Yes. This is where we can connect the Panitz study on brain states with the Collier-Patel data on brain structure. They are two sides of the same coin.
How so?
We know that white matter degrades with age, the hose gets leaky. But study after study is now showing that long-term, high-dose meditators have higher fractional anisotropy, stronger, less leaky hoses, in very specific key areas of the brain.
Okay, which areas? Because if I'm going to spend an hour a day on this, I want to know exactly which cables I'm trying to fix.
Fair enough. One of the main areas is the corpus callosum.
Okay.
That's the massive superhighway of white matter that connects your left and right brain hemispheres. Better integrity there means faster and more efficient communication between your analytical brain and your creative, intuitive brain.
So better whole brain integration.
Exactly. But even more interesting for our discussion about the DMN and emotion is the effect on the uncinate fasciculus.
The uncinate fasciculus. That sounds like a great name for a prog rock band.
It would be, but in the brain, it's one of the most important pieces of wiring you have for emotional regulation.
Why? What does it connect?
It's a major cable that runs from your amygdala, your brain's primitive fear center, the smoke detector, up to your prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO, the logic and reason center.
Oh, so that's the chill out cable?
That is the perfect name for it. It is literally the chill out cable. It's the highway that allows your rational CEO brain to send a message down to your screaming alarm bell brain and say, hey, it's okay. It's not a tiger in the bushes. It's just a stressful email. Stand down.
And what happens to that cable as we age?
It frays, the integrity declines, the signal gets leaky and slow, so the amygdala rings the alarm bell, but the all-clear message from the prefrontal cortex gets lost or delayed.
And that's why people can get grumpier or more anxious as they get older.
Yeah.
The alarm is stuck in the on position.
That's a huge part of it. And what the data suggests is that meditation acts like new insulation for that chill-out cable. It provides what we call a cognitive reserve.
So it might not stop the aging process completely.
No, it can't stop time, and genetics like the APOE genes still play a huge role. But it seems to keep those crucial connections healthier for much longer. It's like anti-aging cream for your emotional brain.
And while we're on the topic of age, we should touch on the other end of the spectrum. The outline mentions adolescence. There's a source from Time of Fieva on kids.
Yes, and this is where the story gets really hopeful. Because while our adult brains are fighting to repair fraying cables, adolescent brains are in a state of hyperplasticity. They're still building the city.
Right, they're paving the roads for the first time.
Exactly. And the research is showing that introducing mindfulness training at that stage can have visible impacts on the gray matter development in the amygdala.
So if you get to them early.
You're not just fixing a problem later in life. You might be fundamentally altering the trajectory of their emotional regulation for their entire life. You are helping them build a stronger, better insulated chill-out cable from the very beginning.
It's like compounding interest for the brain.
Yeah.
You invest early, and you get a massive payout decades later.
That's a great way to think about it.
But this brings us to the really difficult part. The implications. Because we've set up a serious tension here. On one hand, the science is saying, to truly rewire your brain and protect it against aging, you need 50, 60, maybe 80 minutes a day. Every day.
Right.
And on the other hand, the entire wellness economy, the App Store, is saying, give us $10 a month for your 5-minute fix.
Yeah.
There's a massive, massive disconnect.
There is a fundamental misalignment between the prevailing business model and the biological reality.
That app industry is worth billions of dollars. And let's be honest, they are optimized for one thing and one thing only: retention.
Keep the user engaged, keep the subscription active.
Right. So they use gamification. You get streaks, you get badges, you get points. The sessions are short and easy, so you always feel successful. They are designed to give you a little dopamine hit so you come back tomorrow. Because if that app opened up and told you the truth, if the notification said, hi, to actually change your brain's white matter, you now need to sit here for the next hour. It will be incredibly boring, your back will probably hurt, and you won't notice any real results for about 3 months. What would you do?
I would delete the app immediately and probably ask for a refund.
We all would. It's the classic gym membership problem.
Right.
Buying the membership feels great. Going for 5 minutes and taking a selfie feels productive.
Right.
But if you want to actually look like an Olympian, you have to train like an Olympian. The industry is selling the promise of an Olympic body for the price of a light jog around the block.
And this is where we have to be really honest about the goals. I don't want to sound like I'm dismissing the 5-minute practice entirely.
Oh, me neither.
A 5-minute session can be a wonderful state intervention. Think of it like taking an aspirin for a headache.
Okay, that's a good analogy.
It can lower your blood pressure in that moment. It can reduce your cortisol. It might be the thing that stops you from yelling at your kids or sending a nasty email. That has real value.
Absolutely. I'll take the aspirin any day.
But taking aspirin every day is not going to cure the underlying condition that's giving you the headaches. It's a temporary fix. It is not a trait intervention. It's not going to rewire your uncinate fasciculus. It's not going to fire the narrator.
So we need to reframe this. Maybe we should be thinking about it less like a wellness product and more like public health issue.
I think that's the right direction. Look at that aging data again. If we know that white matter decline starts to accelerate around age 36, maybe high-dose meditation should be treated like dental hygiene.
What do you mean?
You don't brush your teeth for 30 seconds once a week and hope for the best. You do it for 2 minutes twice a day, every single day, because it's a preventative measure to stop decay later on.
But brushing my teeth takes 4 minutes a day. This takes an hour. That's the barrier.
That is the cost, and that's what makes this so tricky. It's financially free. You don't need any special equipment. But it is incredibly expensive in the one resource none of us have enough of: time.
And there's also an ethical piece to this that we can't ignore. The critique of McMindfulness isn't just about the dosage being wrong. It's about the context being stripped away.
Yes. This is a crucial point that Van Dam and others make. When you take this ancient practice and strip it down to a simple productivity hack for the corporate world, you might be losing the very thing that makes it work.
How so?
In the original traditions where these practices developed, mindfulness was never, ever taught in isolation. It was always taught as part of a larger ethical framework. It was paired with teachings on compassion, on wisdom, on right action, on community.
So you weren't just learning to focus. You were learning to focus for a reason, so that you could be a kinder, better person.
Precisely. And some theorists argue that those ethical components, like compassion, are actually a key mechanism that drives the positive brain changes. So if you just take the attention training part and throw the rest away, You're left with a tool, but no instruction manual for how to use it safely.
You're just sharpening the knife, but you have no guidance on what to do with it.
And that can be dangerous. A very focused, very present person with no ethical compass can be a very efficient sniper. You can have a mindful psychopath who is fully present, non-judgmental, and incredibly effective at causing harm.
That is a chilling thought. A mindful sniper.
And from a public health perspective, it's irresponsible to sell this as a universal good without mentioning the potential downsides. We talked about the false memory issue. There are other documented cases of meditation inducing anxiety, panic, or depersonalization in some people.
Yeah.
If we market this as a panacea without the warning label, we're not being honest.
Okay, so let's try to tie this all together for the person listening right now.
Hey.
I'm that person. I have a job. I have stress. I am over 35, and I'm picturing my white matter leaking like an old hose. I want the benefits. I want the better chill-out cable. I want to fire my inner narrator. But I really, truly, honestly do not have a spare hour every single day.
And I just don't.
What's the practical takeaway? Do I just give up?
No, you absolutely do not give up. But you get strategic, you get realistic. Based on this whole stack of research, here's the protocol I would suggest.
Okay.
Number 1, consistency is king. The Bowles study was crystal clear on this. Frequency matters more than anything else. So do not binge meditate for 2 hours on a Sunday and then do nothing all week.
Right.
If you only have 20 minutes, then commit to that 20 minutes every single day, no exceptions. Anchor it to an existing habit like your morning coffee. Make it as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth.
Okay. Daily practice, no matter how short. Got it. What's number 2?
Number 2, be patient. Radically patient. The memory studies showed 4 weeks did nothing. 8 weeks was the minimum to see even small effects. The structural changes to white matter take months, more likely years, to become significant. This is a long, slow game. Do not look for results next week.
It's not a quick fix. It's a long-term investment in your neurological future.
Exactly. Which leads to number 3. Accept the trade-off. This is about aligning your expectations with your investment. If you are consistently doing 10 or 15 minutes a day, that is wonderful, but be honest with yourself about what you can expect from that.
The aspirin model.
The aspirin model. Expect mild, in-the-moment stress relief. Expect a nice, quiet break in your day. Do not expect a total personality transplant or immunity from cognitive aging. That's not what you're training for.
That's fair. It's about being realistic about the input versus the output.
Precisely. And finally, number 4. This is a challenge for you and for everyone listening. Watch the digital placebo.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Ask yourself honestly, are you actually practicing mindfulness, or are you just consuming a different kind of media? Are you outsourcing your attention to the guided voice?
What's the alternative?
Try doing it without the app, just once or twice a week. Set a simple timer on your phone for 15 minutes. Sit in silence, and just be with your own breath, your own mind. See if you can sustain that attention yourself, without the voice and the music and the badges. That is the real test of the practice.
That is a challenge I think I need to accept. But I will admit, I'm going to miss my little digital badge.
You can print yourself a certificate and put it on your fridge if you make it to 8 weeks.
It's a deal. Well, this has been, I was going to say enlightening, but maybe sobering is the better word.
Yeah.
But in a good way. It feels empowering to know the actual math of the brain, even if the math is a lot harder than I wanted it to be.
I think knowledge is always the first step. Now you know the real cost of entry, and you can make an informed decision about whether you want to pay it.
Before we wrap up, thank you to all our partners, sponsors, and scholars who made this podcast and the research possible. We're truly grateful for your support.
And to our listeners, thank you for being part of this journey with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and follow Stack Studios for more informative content, and support us in Patreon.
Until next time,
Lama.
stay curious, keep learning, and let the search for wisdom guide you forward. Have a great day.